It's time to be woke. Take off your shades, it helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the...
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. Thank you very much for tuning in to us this morning. Today is a very important show for us here at Hair of the Dog. Part of our mission in our, I guess we call our credo here, is to be advocates for all of our communities without exception. And what goes along with that is allowing those people, those groups, to have their own voice and to speak with that voice. Because if you've got your eyes open and you see what's happening in mainstream media, you know, those marginalized communities are being vilified every single day, and they need to have their own voice. And it's a very important thing for us to have. And that gets started with the introduction of my lovely and talented co-host, Miss Gary Barber. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, Andy, thank you so much. And yeah, I echo everything that you said. I think that we have, those who have been watching us long enough know that we cover the cause and effect, particularly our audiences, some of the smartest folks out there, because we encourage that critical thinking, and particularly when we're talking about social justice communities and all of these places where if you ignore what's going on, it's going to come back to haunt us all. There is no over there. It is us, just us. And I've said it before, the whole phrase about all of us or none is historical fact. It is not just a catchy slogan. So today's broadcast, I hope you will pay attention, you will stay engaged, and you'll watch the entire thing, because we are so incredibly fortunate to have three very important members of the Panther Coalition with us today. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and get into introductions. So Kwame, please introduce yourself first and give everybody an idea of what your role is.
How you doing? Kwame Shakur, Minister of Culture for the New African Black Panther Party. We as the New African Black Panther Party, we have a two-pronged approach to revolution in this country. We follow the 10-point platform of the original Black Panther Party, and we continue in the legacy that the original Black Panther Party established for us back in the 60s. Our two-point strategy is that we believe in turning prisons into schools of liberation. Me, Shaka, we represent that. We came out of prison. I did 18, Shaka did like 20, 21. And that's when we changed our criminal mentality into a revolutionary mentality and start to see that we can actually contribute to our community, to empower our community, to transform it in a way where it's going to be in the interest of the people. And the other prong of that strategy is that we believe in, the establishing liberated base areas in our communities of political, social, and cultural power. What that means that we want to institutionalize, the Panther Revolution. You serve the people programs. This is what the original Black Panther Party did back in the day. Serve the people program, giving out free healthcare, free Empower the Block is another thing that Shaka has, where people in the community goes out and clean up the community, to empower the community, to clean up the community, to invest, to show that this is your community. The original Black Panthers had 64 programs. So every community is gonna have different needs, but we believe that we have to control all the institutions in our community in order to empower our community to take back our community for the people's interests.
Okay, so that was a ton to unpack because
That's a hell of an intro.
that was a hell of an intro because you're kind of blowing my mind here. And, Andy and I talked about before we started, we grew up, Black Panthers were bad until the movie came out and then everybody cheered a Black Panther, right? So
Right.
I want to pause on that because there's a lot to get into. But real quick, let's get to our other two guests as a brief introduction, and then let's get into all that history. So, Subi, why don't you tell everyone who you are, what you represent, and why you're here today?
Peace and blessings. I'm Subi Toro, excuse me, National Chairman of the New Era Young Lords. Um, the New Era Young Lords follow the ideology of the Young Lords. The Young Lords started in Chicago as a gang, which turned into a revolutionary organization upon meeting Fred Hampton, Cha-Cha Jimenez, the founder, which also converted into the Rainbow Coalition as we go on. But us as the New Era Young Lords, is to carry on the same ideology as the Young Lords, but in a new age, in a new era. So we tackle things maybe a little bit differently as, they would have back then, but still preaching self-determination for the community, the people here, and the people also back home in Puerto Rico, because, we also represent our island as well. So to teach education and culture is always a goal. So I'll keep it real short so we can move on.
Thank you, Subi. That was perfect. Justin, you want to introduce yourself and talk about your role?
Yeah, I'm the representative of the White Panther Party, and we basically are like a coalition of majority or pretty much just white people that are trying to advocate for anti-racism and conscious self-awareness in our own communities, and raise class consciousness in our community here. And I think that it was around 1968 where the original version of it was founded, and it was basically just sparked off of an interview with Huey Newton, where I think it was like one of the founding members asked like Huey P. Newton, like, what should we do in order to help you? And Huey P. Newton was like, why don't you make something like the White Panthers? And then it just spawned from that.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's kind of blowing my mind too, because this is the first I ever heard of the White Panthers, and I remember the Latin organizations, the Latin gangs from Chicago, as part of the Fred Hampton movement and the Rainbow Coalition. But so let's get into that history, because you guys just completely blew everybody's mind here. You're talking about the history, like White Panthers. We didn't know there was a White Panthers ever, and here you are. So let's go back into the history, because I grew up, and most people grew up with seeing the images of, for the first time, what they were called Black nationalists or whatever you want in the media, and they were organized and well armed, and people were terrified, absolutely terrified, particularly in California, where we saw the very first anti-gun legislation come about, as we understand it now, because of the Black Panthers. So Kwame, you want to take that one? Where did all this go from there?
I want to touch on the point that you just made, because before I went to prison, I used to think that the Black Panther Party was the Black Ku Klux Klan, and I'm Black. So that goes to show you how much this government has demonized their legacy in this country, because I was a teenager hearing about the Black Panther Party, and I really didn't hear nothing good till I got to Tupac Shakur. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm glad that like we have movies like Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm glad that we have documentaries out like the Rainbow Coalition that tells the true history. So people like me don't have to go to prison to pick up a book to realize the true legacy of the Black Panthers. But they were demonized because the the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, he saw them as the biggest threat to the U.S. government, and they wanted to, like, they'll put like this, a good example right now, when a young Black person is gunned down by the police today, they will go back to his whole history and try to find some way to demonize them, to turn the public off of them. So the goal in demonizing the Panthers is to turn the Black population and the lower class working population away from their legacy, because if we ever find out what they really represent, it represents what's in the real interest of the people. You know what I mean? And that's something that they don't ever want to bring about. You know what I mean? So yeah, the original Black Panther Party, they did evolve from Black nationalists in the beginning, but they went from Black nationalists to revolutionary nationalists to proletariat intercommunalists to revolutionary intercommunalists is what they came to represent in the final analysis. And that's what we represent today. The Rainbow Coalition that Fred Hampton established in April 4th, 1969, that just goes to show you that at the end of the day, we see this as a class struggle. Race plays a part in this country. You dig what I'm saying? But it's like Fred Hampton said, racism is a byproduct of capitalism. You have to understand that the people that first started this country were white, rich males that even excluded white women and poor white males. You dig what I'm saying? And race had always been circumscribed around the white male, rich white male in this country. And it created a paradigm and a social caste system of different nationalities. And because we was brought here as slaves, we was at the bottom. You know what I mean? So white supremacy was infused in this country from the very beginning during slavery. That was a compromise between two ruling classes, the capitalist class and the slave-owning class when the American Revolutionary War happened. You know, and even after when the Civil War happened, that's when we see mass incarceration increase in this country, where if you didn't have a job, you could be sent back to the plantation or put in a mine and work practically to death. You know what I mean? So it's a lot in this country. And one other example, just speaking about the Civil War, a lot of us are never told that Abraham Lincoln was a white supremacist that saw in his own speeches with Senator Douglas. He said, if there's going to be an inferiority and superiority in the country, I'm going to assign that to the white race and leave the inferiority status to the Black race. We would never allow them to sit on a jury, intermarry with us, or run for office, any of those things. You dig what I'm saying? So from his way of looking at it, you know, we don't see that picture that's given us to us in these school systems. So this is why this is important. What we're doing in the Rainbow Coalition today is because we have to educate the people of their real history. And this is a part of the people's real history, no matter if you're Black, Hispanic, white, Native American, or whatnot.
So beautiful point. And we've seen this with the Martin Luther King holiday, with Malcolm X, all of these figures being whitewashed. And my favorite book is Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States, where he actually talks about that. In Virginia, the poor whites and the poor Blacks got along too well, and they were marrying each other, and that can't happen. So that's where the first rules and laws came into play about separation and things like that. So I love that you went there. So Subi, we see this now in Puerto Rico, right? So we had hurricane, we have blackouts, we have water shortages, we have food issues. We still have insecurities for basic needs in Puerto Rico, on the island, but then also in our populations in major cities. We've seen it in Chicago, New York, and other places. So how does all of this relate to the people that you are representing from your cultural standpoint?
If you look at back in the late 60s going into the 70s, and you look at now 2020, 2021, not much has changed. You know, at least in our communities, you know, the way we're treated, the resources that are not given to us, or the resources that aren't in our communities anymore. You know, it's just the same struggle that we had back then that we still fight now. We're still fighting for better healthcare, better homes, better education. You know, it's the same fight that we had then. But like I said, in a new era. So there's there's not a lot that has changed from then to now when you look at the circumstances that the people in the community and the people even in Puerto Rico. Because the biggest fight in Puerto Rico is the fact that Puerto Rico doesn't have a voice. You know, they don't have a say-so on what goes on in Puerto Rico. It sucks that you have to move to the United States to be able to have a vote, to even to vote for the president of the United States, your commander-in-chief officer. You have to move to the mainland when Puerto Rico is a territory. It's a part of the United States. It's probably one of the biggest vacation revenues for the United States when you look at the rest of their territory islands. So yes, it's a major struggle. You know, schools are closing over there faster than their schools are closing over here. There's no medical attention over there. You know, it's real difficult to get the things you need in Puerto Rico, especially when you don't pick your own government and the government here picks your government. So like I said, it's a lot of things going on with the government there and the government here, you know, because it intertwines. So my main objective with my organization, you know, is to bring education, self-awareness, you know, to show the people what's going on, to push the people to vote. Because especially for us as Puerto Ricans, our vote really matters, especially when our brothers and sisters back home can't vote. They don't have a say-so on what's going on over there. So if you can put a vote and you can, you know, have a say-so on what's going over there, or push the narrative a little bit, then I think we should, you know, do that for our people over there. But it's still a struggle. Like I said, the communities that we come from, the neighborhoods we come from, like you said, Chicago, you know, you had redlining back in the days. You know, you had certain things like that that were put in contracts and laws with landlords to keep us out of certain communities and then kick us out of our communities to gentrify them. You know, it's a lot going on in our communities here and in Puerto Rico. So my biggest thing is to show our communities there and here that we all go through the same struggles. You know, African Americans and Puerto Ricans, since Puerto Ricans came here, have been one, you know, and I think that's lost now. And nowadays, I think people get it confused and they try to separate the two when this is no different, you know, from the creation of hip hop to the gang environments, you know, growing up together. There's not much difference between Puerto Ricans and Blacks. And my thing is to really push that out there and push the narrative for people to be self-educated and really notice that there is no difference from culture to religion to hip to everything. You know, we share that in common. There's more in common than we have divided. You hear what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. So this makes sense. Subi and Kwame totally makes sense. Justin, you're an anomaly. And here's where I want to get to the subject of the White Panthers. Andy, you have that graphic of all the points of the White Panthers. And Kwame, I pulled this off your page. So thank you. So Justin, let's be honest. You're a white guy. We have a certain level of privilege. We get to walk into places and spaces unmolested, unharmed for the most part. Where do you come into all of this, right? It makes sense with minority communities, social justice, all of this. How do you fit in? How do the White Panthers fit into this particular mix here?
Well, with what I said previously about raising awareness about anti-racism and class consciousness, there has always, bouncing off of what Kwame Shakur has said and what Subi Toro has said, there has always been a vested interest in the powers that be and those who uphold the current order of the day in stifling class consciousness. And one of the main methods with which they use, that they use in order to do this is racism. Racism is not only a byproduct, but also an effective tool in stoking racialized subdivisions amongst the working class. And they use it very effectively against white people who may experience the same gentrification and police brutality within their own communities, albeit at a completely different scale. It's not to the same extreme and it's not to the same extent of brutality, but they experience it in similar ways, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. You could raise the valid concern that that a white revolutionary movement can be the optics of a white revolutionary movement, such as the White Panther Party. The optics of it can be perceived as something reactionary or potentially negative. It could have negative consequences. but I don't think that that's where this is going at all. Because and the reason why people have those concerns is because of the reactionary tendencies within the United States. In 1991, there was a huge incident which stoked the right wing militia movement. I think you're familiar with the Ruby Ridge incident in Idaho, and that created an explosion of right wing white led militias. And I think that we should be wary of those tendencies, but the goal of the White Panther Party is to get to those people, is to get to those people that were victims of the FBI and the state, and make them class aware so that they don't repose their rhetoric in white supremacy or reactionary tendencies. The goal is to educate people within the white community so that they realize that that the issues that they're most concerned about, like when it comes to the real issues that matter within the United States, they have more in common with, in the same way that Subitoro said that Puerto Ricans have more in common with Black people and vice versa, like than is led on. I think that is the goal of the White Panther movement. Also, we have more in common with people of color who are oppressed than is led on within the mainstream media. And there's been a huge vested effort, and I don't think like, because if you look at people who vote for Donald Trump, like many of them will say, like many white people that voted for Donald Trump, they will say that they didn't vote for him because they're racist. But if you look at the campaign policy in 2016, what did Donald Trump run on? What was the rhetoric that he utilized? He utilized left-wing populist rhetoric. He said that he was going to maintain coal mining jobs. He said he was going to bring unions back. He said that he was going to reinvigorate the steel industry. He said that he was going to bring back auto manufacturing jobs in Detroit and make us an economic powerhouse again and bring back jobs. That's populist language. And he utilized that populist language in the places where the Democratic Party wasn't willing to go. He went to the Rust Belt states. He went to the South. He spoke to working class rural people, and he got to them before leftist movements could get to them. Because what's happening now is within white leftist movements, there's this snide piousness where they write off these working class people and dismiss them as a lost cause because they don't want to do the work of having their rhetoric and their views challenged. They don't want to talk with these people because they just dismiss them as a lost cause. Well, they're bigoted, they're sexist or whatever. Like, okay, then challenge those views. Bring it to them instead of running away from them and pushing them away. Challenge them. Why do you have to push these guys away? I think the goal of the White Panther movement is to tap into the revolutionary potential of disenfranchised white people who voted for Trump because they wanted change and stuff like those types of people. You can get rid of those reactionary tendencies by actually challenging these.
You bring up an excellent point.
Absolutely, that's a huge point. That's a great point. There were 75 million people that voted for Donald Trump in 2020, right? Not only did they vote for Donald Trump, they're Americans. If you're talking about a more just society in the United States, that includes those people. It's a very valid point.
So Justin, I want to follow up on something you said. I'm going to pass this back to any of you who want to tackle this, but you brought up the militias, and we have seen other news reports where they have interviewed some of the Oath Keepers and the 3%ers who have commented that they are nothing more than forming themselves after the model of the Black Panther Party. So are you guys a militia?
No, I wouldn't say that we're like a militia like that. No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. Not at all comparable to what the 3%ers or the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers are selling. The Oath Keepers and the 3%ers, they have rhetoric that's deeply rooted in chauvinistic jingoism for the United States. It's very much so reactionary. And I'll acknowledge their concern that they want change, but the way that the methods with which they're going about it and the type of change that they want is probably not, it pretty much is not what is, it does not align with my views. I don't think it represents what the White Panther Party is about at all.
Okay, Kwame, same question. Are you a militia? Aren't you? Isn't that what the Black Panthers are about?
We are a revolutionary party, vanguard party. What that means that our primary focus is raising, like the comrade said, raising the political conscious, the social. We want to, when I say we want to create base areas of liberated zones of political, social, cultural power, that means that we want to control the institutions in our community that makes our daily lives function and able to improve our daily lives, you know, and connect the community with each other and recognize that at the end of the day, we are our own salvation, not the Democratic Party, not the Republican Party, not any of these other parties. We, the people, is going to be our own solution. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, when some of them groups use any type of language and try to refer to themselves as us, we pretty much dismiss everything related to us and them, because we diametrically opposed to them. They're fascists. They're Nazis. They're even against their own bourgeoisie government. You know, what we saw January 6th. They want to overthrow the constitution of their government and make it a totalitarian fascist type of government that, you know, Hitler and Mussolini pushed. So we have nothing in common with them. In fact, they put a lot of us in prison during those times of World War II. So we have nothing in common with no fascists. You know what I mean? They're against everything about humanity. They're very sexist. They're very anti-phobic against different nationalities. They're LGBTQ phobic. You know, they have nothing in relation to us. We stand in solidarity with all the people, not only the people of the United States, but around the world that wants to liberate themselves from any form of oppression, no matter if it's capitalist oppression, feudalist oppression, slave oppression. We fight for the people across the world.
Okay, Subi, y'all keep saying revolution. What does that mean? You openly admit that your group came from a gang in Chicago. So should I be worried? Should I be concerned? What does this actually mean?
Just to throw a little history out there, it's actually the undocumented first and maybe only gang in history to actually turn into a revolutionary organization and never turn back. So just to clarify that, we're not into the gang politics at all, or the street politics. We do represent the community. We do stand for the community and represent the community. So in no shape or form will we ever put the community in harm's way. That's not what we're here for. That's actually against what we're here for. There's a way to be disruptive without being destructive. And what I mean by that is, like I said, we represent the community. So the people who claim they represent the community from a political standpoint, from a political stature, we will hold you guys accountable for what you do in the community. It means we will give you a headache. We'll be the quote unquote pain in the butt every time, without a doubt. So no, we don't stand for, like I said, that rhetoric that we can't do that.
Okay, so it's all about accountability, community, and building from local up. I think I got it. So
without accountability, there is no community. You have to be accountable for your actions.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Something that seems to be missing in the current political environment.
Oh yeah, from top to bottom, you pick a headline and there's, you know, the dual justice system we've covered here, the dual economic system. Every one of the systems that we have, not only is it systemic racism, but classism and everything else. So you guys are actually addressing all of this with your particular organizations, either in your communities or together. So tell me a little bit about the work that you're actually doing. What does this mean? Because I got to be honest, I hear politicians and other people who say these good things, but then, you know, actions speak. So what do you guys actually do?
I feel like, and I don't want to say I speak for everyone here, but I feel like we do the politicians' work. The stuff that they promise, the things that they say they're going to bring to the communities and never show up to the communities, the programs that are taken away, the housing for the homeless, the food. We're doing their work. We're doing the work that they claim they do. We're doing the boots on the ground that they say they stand for.
Okay, Kwame, do you second this? Or can you give us examples?
Point. It was the Black Panther Party that even started a free breakfast program that the government took over. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Philanthropic things that the government does today, they took from the Black Panther Party and the Rainbow Coalition in order to water down.
That's right.
Try to co-opt our movement, water it down, and pull the people into the Democratic and Republican Party. You know what I mean?
Woman, infant, and child was developed by the Black Panther Party.
Say it again.
Woman, infant, and child was developed by the Black Panther Party and was taken over by the government. Yep.
You're talking about the WIC program.
Right, yep. Absolutely. It started with the Black Panther Party. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of things that people benefit today comes from that legacy and stuff. So some of the things, like for instance, I've been involved in is like fighting our 7-point in the New African Black Panther Party's 10-point program. We want to end the brutality and terror against Black people and all people by the police. You know what I mean? So we've been fighting against a lot of the stuff that's been going on here. Right now, we have a recent situation that a person got killed here in Indianapolis a year ago named Dorian Morrell. Actually, today, just to put it in a little further context, Drayshawn Reed, Mikhail Rose, Ashlyn Lisby, they were all killed within a 24-hour span here in Indianapolis by the police. Nobody has ever been indicted. May the 31st, a police officer killed Dorian Morrell, or it could have been a white supremacist or a police. We don't know. We know he got shot at a protest by a sniper, and they locked somebody else up for it right now. And he's standing trial. But we had proof that he was shot by a sniper. So one of the things we've been doing is standing with this family. Shutting down the streets. Going last week, attended a pre-trial hearing for the person that's standing trial. Because we really believe those 10-point program, if we stand by them, this is the way to bring the people into the movement and empower the people to fight back against their oppression.
Okay, you bring up a really good point, and this is a question I wanted to get to. So we've seen this from the Michael Brown protests going into Louisville and in other areas. This is a historical fact. When you have a strong leader that's trying to build a coalition, they end up dead. And we saw this with organizers for Louisville and the protests. These people are just ending up shot dead, found in a car. Are any of you concerned about this? Because this is kind of a national, I hate to say it, but it's a national pastime here in this country where you have a strong voice who's trying to work on reform, unity, and you've actually said revolution. Does it bother you? Do you worry?
Speaking for myself, I mean, I'm cautious. I know it's a reality. I know it's going on. I know down in St. Louis, they murdered 14 people. I know Melissa McKenzie's son, Danye Jones, was hung from a tree and it wasn't suicide. You know what I mean? Just to silence her, what was his name? Darren Seals, which was a big voice down at Ferguson. A lot of people suspect that it was the police or white supremacists killed him. Like I said, 14 people. That's just Ferguson. I'm not even talking about Louisville. You know what I mean? There's been several activists down there that's been killed within the last year. So we all, I think, are cognizant about it. But at the end of the day, we have to look at it under slavery, modern day slavery. So does the slave get content to being on a plantation? You know what I mean? We don't get content. We have to do what we have to do to overthrow this plantation and for the people to be empowered to take their rightful place in history. Because to me, human civilization, if we continue in this trajectory, we're just going to continually destroy each other. We're going to continually destroy the planet. We're going to continually, many lives lost that had great potential. So we have to have a different trajectory of where human civilization is going. So we can't be intimidated by the fact that, we have to make sacrifices, and sometimes sacrifices made. Hopefully none of us ever experience that. But if we do, we hope the legacy and this movement continues on and actually becomes a vehicle to change other people's lives, so they understand that at the end of the day, like even in the American Revolution, what was the guy said, give me liberty or give me death? Well, we said we want real freedom for the people, real self-determination. Anything else is, settling. And I don't think none of us should settle.
Okay, so you brought up slavery, and one of my favorite heroes from childhood is Harriet Tubman, and she's attributed with this quote about, I would have freed more had they known they were slaves. So under that context, what are you guys doing for outreach and to really get the word out? Because like I said, until this particular conversation, I did not know that there were White Panthers. I did not know that the Latin contingent still existed. I kind of knew a little bit about the Rainbow Coalition. So what are you doing for outreach and community engagement to get people involved and understand exactly where you're coming from and what your path forward would be?
For us, for the New Era Young Lords, we started feeding I don't want to say people in need at the moment, because we are doing a pandemic. So it's not just people who are completely at rock bottom. There are other people out there that are struggling. We've been feeding individual hot meals. I would say within 2020, we fed over 2,000 individual hot meals. Also, we fed about 300 families with 30-pound boxes of food with milk, onions, fruits, vegetables, meats. We're doing a lot of boots on the ground where we actually go out there and cater to the homeless, and we do jacket drives, coat drives, clothings. We're trying to get a headquarters at the moment here in Connecticut, so that way we can cater to the community for basic needs, which is basic paperwork, filling out, resume setting up for a job interview, clothing you for a job interview. So there's a lot that we're doing with the community and the outreach at the moment.
Nice. Justin, Kwame, either of you want to weigh in a little bit?
As of right now, I've been speaking to people online, but the most success that I've had, I get the most enthusiastic responses from people when I try to talk to them in person. I speak with my coworkers at my place of work. I've been speaking to my neighbors. I've been speaking to people in my neighborhood, and people are more responsive when you treat it like almost like an interview, where you ask them what their concerns are and stuff like that. And as of right now, like in my local area, me and my older brother walking the railroad tracks by the river. We just found a torn down homeless encampment, and we're speculating that it was probably torn down by a police raid. So we're gonna do a cleanup and try to take some photos of it, and try after cleaning it up to try to raise awareness about homelessness in this area. And then afterwards, we want to try to get in contact with the people that were living there, but we can't find them right now because they were kicked out by the police. That's one of the ideas that I had as of right now. And then I want to also engage in the same social reform policies that Supitora was talking about earlier, like community outreach, providing clothing, giving street addresses so that homeless people can apply to a job, because if you don't have a street address, you can't apply to a job. I want to be able to do stuff like that too.
Perfect. Okay, so Kwame, I want to talk about this event that you have coming up. This is May 14th. Tell me a little bit about this. This is New Jersey, correct?
Yeah, so all of us will be out there in New Jersey. New Jersey is the headquarters of the New African Black Panther Party. That's where most of our activity, our strongest focus has been because the great leadership of Shaka out there. So we, like I was speaking about earlier, April 1969 is when, you know, the original Black Panther Party came together with the Young Lords and also the Young
Patriots.
Patriot Party, the Young Patriot Party, yeah.
And you know, Hy Thurman, Cha-Cha, Jose Cha-Cha Jimenez and all them, they really started the Rainbow Coalition that started to that mushroom after that. So you had other groups that started to join the Rainbow Coalitions after those three, Rising Up Angry, the American Indian Movement. You even had different Asian groups that jumped on board and became a part of the Rainbow Coalition. So we want to establish that same legacy for this generation. This is going to be the official announcing of our coalition that we putting together. You can say this is this century. If you want to say new era Rainbow Coalition, you know, this is what we're doing today. We want to uphold the legacy of our of Jose Cha-Cha Jimenez, Fred Hampton, Bobby Lee, Hy Thurman. You know, a lot of these individuals like Hy Thurman and Jose Cha-Cha Jimenez are still alive today. You know what I mean? And they're watching the work that we're doing. I met him actually about a year ago up in Chicago. Last year spoke to him and he was talking about some of the stuff we was doing here in Indianapolis when we was protesting the police brutality and a little small Rainbow Coalition that we established here where we was also going around standing in solidarity with the prisoners over COVID-19. So this is a continuation of that legacy. And hopefully today, after Judas and the Black Messiah came out, a lot of people have a better understanding of what the real legacy of the Black Panther Party, the Rainbow Coalition is about. And we can bring a lot more people in the community to be engaged with the community.
So this is really a big deal. This is like a massive coming out party.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
It's a long time overdue.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, we are we're humbled that you would come on and talk about it here. So I really appreciate that. So
I'll throw that graphic up there, Carrie.
Yeah. Let's put that up there, and we will make sure that people in and around the tri-state area show up and get to know more about what you're doing, what your mission is, what your goals are. I don't know. I'm kind of stunned here because everything that I heard and everything that I grew up with is not at all what the three of you have talked about here. So I'm kind of at an inflection point where this sounds great to me. It sounds great. So if I am kind of on the fence, and maybe some of our viewers are on the fence, what's the next step? What is the takeaway that I should be considering after hearing all of this, your message and kind of hearing things for the first time? What would you suggest for me now to maybe make a decision for myself that is based on reality and not necessarily propaganda?
I would tell you to do your homework. I think now we have a lot of documentaries, like the first Rainbow Coalition, like Kwame said, Judas and the Black Messiah. They have other documentaries out there, and there are people that are still out there. You know, he said Cha-Cha Jimenez is still out there. I've spoken to Cha-Cha. You know, he is out there still. You know, so we do have to give them their flowers while they're still here, and it's a perfect time, you know, to be able to speak to them. You know, we just passed the 50th. You know, so it is that turning point for the new generation, but it is, we can also still take the opportunity to still get the elders while they're still here and get the valuable information, because there are a lot of people who are a victim of the COINTELPRO. And I'm not talking about the people who are actually involved. I'm talking about the people who are looking at it from the outside, looking in, like the people like you know, who were fed the information that they wanted to feed you, not the information that actually happened. So I think it's a huge thing where people need to start educating themselves. Don't just listen to us right now and say, hey, I want to join. No, do your homework. Go look at what you're really signing yourself up for, you know. And that's from my personal, you know, that's my opinion.
Okay. Kwame, Justin, any advice?
I let Justin speak.
I mean, I think Subitoro summed it up perfectly. If you were, if you wanted to make a significant decision regarding your life and in relation to politics, then by all means, like, don't just take our word for it. Like, actually research and investigate the history behind all this stuff. But I will say that, like, many people have been convinced that people like Fred Hampton and Huey P. Newton were menaces to society who terrorized their communities, and it's all due to an initial gut reaction that has been instilled within the white community in America because of the nonstop, almost 500 years of nonstop oppression that people of color have faced in this country. So then, when you see people like the Young Lords and the Black Panther Party come about, when you see these movements come about, it's almost natural to have, as someone who is not a person of color, when you see that, the gut reaction is fear because you probably understand the history, like you probably know in the back of your mind. So then, like, there's a lot of media out there, the news and mainstream media. They have a vested interest, as I said before, in stoking racialized subdivisions amongst the working class. And one of the main ways they do that is convincing white people that they are better or superior to other ethnicities, or to convince them that the other ethnicities are terrorists or monsters that want to take away everything good and lovely within this nation, which is not the case at all. There's Tainos and Black people in America and Hispanic and Latino people in America. They have and even Asian American, like Yellow Peril, the railroad train infrastructure that helped stimulate the economy of the United States. People of color from all across the globe had built the wealth of this nation through blood, sweat, and tears on their backs. And all they're asking is to just be treated as though they are people, right? That's basically what it is. But yeah, everything that Subitoro said, like, is spot on. Like, that is really spot on. It's all about, like, doing your own research and coming to your own conclusions. You have to be a little bit scientific about it, you know?
Okay, so is it fair to say then, is it a fair statement to say that all of you are fighting for a revolution so that the Constitution actually lives the message that it says, so that we actually have that nation that is enumerated in the Constitution?
If the Constitution uphold what it actually represented, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Exactly.
I will say that we want to go beyond the Constitution.
The Constitution.
Constitution was instituted for slave owners and capitalists. You know what I mean? And we want a different system. We want a system that's going to be rooted into the people in our best interests. So under this system, it's all about profit. You know, right now, even the COVID, I was talking posted something on Facebook with the COVID-19. I guess Biden just lifted some restrictions on the intellectual rights. And the pharmaceutical companies is mad about that because they're going to lose a lot of money to give intellectual rights to India and some of these other countries that's been hit even harder with that. But think about this. When a society is organized in a way where millions of people could possibly die because you don't want to give them the secret to that possibly save their life. You know what I'm saying? So this is how this type of system works. When everything is profit driven, it can't be human driven about human life. You know what I mean? So in order for that to change, we need a different system, though, politically, economically, socially, culturally, that's going to reflect the best interest of the people and stuff. You know what I'm saying? A capitalist system will never be in the best interest of the people. Even if we made a raise the standard of living of everybody in this country, if that was possible. How will we go about doing that? We have to plunder the world even more. We have to carry out more wars of plunder and annexation of different resources and exploit different people across the world in order for the people here to live even better. You know what I mean? That's not the type of world we are fighting for. We're trying to fight for a world that's going to end this type of oppression and misery, not just here in the United States, but around the world. Because I don't care if a person is over in Iraq, over in Brazil, over in England, over in Germany. They all of our brothers. We dealing with the same oppression of the same class, a ruling class and power, no matter what country we're from. We have to recognize that around the world, that we're actually brothers and sisters fighting a common cause. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's definitely a little different than just the Constitution. The Constitution was very nationalistic, had a jingleless, very xenophobic aspect of it. It was only talking about the United States. And it wasn't even talking about everybody in the United States. You dig what I'm saying? So we living for the future of humanity. And this is the only way we're going to be able to save it, is that we all build together.
Okay.
Just piggybacking off Kwame real quick. I'm sorry, but the Young Lords and the Black Panthers, they're international organizations. They've done work in China. They've done works across seas numerous amount of times to help the people in other places. So picking back off what Kwame said, it is a human right. You know, we're standing for human rights. We're standing for elevation in the program, if you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of things even going off of what he said with the COVID. You know, the United States themselves have, you know, vaccines on reserve when other countries can't even afford to purchase vaccines at the moment. You know, it should be a human right for health. So it's like he said, you know, it's changing the program and elevating the program.
Yeah, Colby said that that he was going to, they were going to lose. Oh, hang on.
He made a point I want to piggyback on. A lot of people don't know this, and y'all might not know this as well. There was many different chapters of the Black Panther Party across the world. There was chapters over in Israel. I know a lot of people I don't know that. It was chapters over there in Britain. There was chapters in Algeria. So there was Black Panther Party chapters around the world because we saw a common cause with the world people and stuff. You know what I mean? So I just want to throw that in because I know a lot of people don't know that. For a long time, I didn't.
If there's one thing people share is struggle, you know, and that's what we have in common is struggle.
So Andy, did you have a question?
Oh,
I
was just going to say that the one point Kwame made about the pharmacies losing money. It's actually they're not losing any money. They're just losing the ability to grotesquely profit from people dying in a pandemic.
Absolutely,
For sure.
We're just about out of time, and this has been a phenomenal. Look, I'm speechless. That never happens. It's illuminating.
I can attest to that.
Thank you, Andy. It's just been a phenomenal conversation, and I personally have learned so much. I hope that people are watching have learned it. Can I impose and put you all on the spot and ask you to come back and have more of these conversations with us?
I think we're gonna need to because we haven't even touched the surface.
Yeah, we really.
Yeah, we didn't get to too much into the coalition, and then we didn't get into the other chapters that we all have around, you know, the states right now. So I think it's going to be another call up here, if you'll have us, of course.
Of course, absolutely, absolutely, and you're right. We are only scratching the surface. We'll call this our introductory episode and do maybe a multi-part series so people can really understand. Because I think particularly on our network, when we're trying to have that unbiased reporting, we are focusing on local communities because we know there's so much frustration. What do we do? And this is remembering who our neighbors are, reaching out to our neighbors, and everything that you guys were talking about kind of touches on those. In particular, Andy and I talk about the economics of it from a macro standpoint all the way down to the state and local level. So this plays a huge part in the themes that we've talked about here today. So yeah, absolutely. We would love to have you guys come back. Before we get out of here, Andy, you have been listening intently, and I think maybe you knew less about all of this than I did.
Yes.
Where are you right now and your reaction to all of this?
Well, I think I get the feeling that there's a lot of people in society that they don't know where to turn, right? They think, well, there's no point in even participating in electoral politics because nobody is looking out for me, and I'm on my own. It's the old bootstraps argument, right? But I think that if people knew that there are organizations out there that are looking out for people in the communities, right? That's why I think these shows are really important. That word gets out, that there is help out there, and it strengthens with numbers, because that's always the thing that we say is that's the only advantage that we have is that there's just more of us, right?
Well said, well said. So gentlemen, I thank you so much for your time today. I do want to keep up on this huge event that you've got coming up next week. And if you would share some information with us about how this event is going down, we will totally make sure that people know about it and get the word out, because I am personally very interested in seeing how this goes, what you guys are able to accomplish, and really, looking out for people, individual people, because obviously we're all in this together, whether we like it or not. So thank you, gentlemen, so much.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.
All power to all people everywhere. Stay strong.
Excellent. So well said. So thank you everyone who tuned in today to watch this. It was an amazing conversation, and I hope you learned as much as I did, as much as Andy did, invaluable information. So I really appreciate it and look forward to having more. So Andy, you want to take us out?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Take care.
We bout that, ayy. Bringing the song, we out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair of the dog, we keep it in G.